Joe Lopez from Channel 6 News. I will be reporting recent news as of today. Today, President Andrew Jackson has announced that he will no longer be running as president. We're back with Takira for more information on this story.
Thank you, Joe. Now let's go through Andrew Jackson's history.
In the presidential election of 1824, Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams came head-to-head. Although Jackson won by popular vote, it was up to the Electoral College to decide. After losing the election of 1824, Jackson's followers left the Republican Party to form the Democratic Republic Party. After 4 years, he ran for president in 1828 against John Quincy Adams. This time, he won by majority vote.
Now let's go to Mariella.
Thank you to Kirsten for that great news. Now let's talk about Jackson's establishment on the spoils system. During Andrew Jackson's presidency, he established the spoils system. This system allowed incoming officials to fire former employees and replace them with their friends and family. His appointees would serve up to 4 years unless he specifically wanted them to stay. With this new system, he fired around 10% of former employees, most were Adams' administration. Jackson's friends also became his advisors. With this system established, he has a lot of control in the office. And now to Joe Lopez.
Hey! Thanks, Mariella. Now to inform you more about the Indian Removal Acts. Jackson in office led to the Indian Removal Act of 1830. This began with the Indians not cooperating with the American government and because they were living in expensive land. The only solution was for them to move west. Congress passed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which meant the federal government would negotiate treaties which would pay for them to move off of their land. Only a few tribes agreed to the federal government's force. Those who refused were forcibly removed from their land. One tribe, the Cherokee, had an attempt to fight back against the federal government. John Marshall refused to take their case because they had no federal standing. This caused the Cherokee to team up with missionaries who had been teaching without state license. Samuel Austin Worcester was one of the missionaries who helped them. In 1832, the Worcester versus Georgia case, the Cherokee finally got recognition as a distinct political community.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Okay. Cotton, cotton, cotton. You tired of seeding your own cotton? Well, here's a new invention for you. The cotton gin.
Now to our intern, Andrina Mayonnaise.
Thanks, Joe. And now we're on to the Charioteers.
Eventually, the Cherokee ended up signing a treaty that gave up their land for $5 million. After the treaty was signed, 20,000 Cherokees still remained in their original land, in which they were forcibly removed by U.S. Army troops to the west. Later that year, in 1838, the Cherokee were sent in groups of 1,000 to start their 800-mile west. This was known as the Trail of Tears. Many died, were injured, and sick. They went through starvation due to the government taking their money and outlaws taking their livestock. They arrived on a land almost opposite from where they came.
Let us take a moment to recap all that we have discussed today. Andrew Jackson won the election of 1828 against John Quincy Adams. He was popular with the people because he made them believe that he was humble and cared for them. He then established a spoils system which allowed officials to fire current employees and replace them with friends or family. Following that, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 occurred. The white settlers had many different opinions toward the Native Americans. One was to convert them into Christianity, and the other was to move them away. Many Native Americans started to adopt European traditions from the white settlers. Jackson believed the adoption of the settlers' culture was not going to work. The only way to fix the problem was to have the Native Americans move west. Congress then passed the Indian Removal Act, which had the federal government provide money to create treaties with the Native Americans to move west. A lot of Native American tribes refused to sign the treaties.
The Cherokee then fought back in the Worcester vs. Georgia case. They won recognition as a tribe but still tried to fight in the courts. In 1835, the federal government made the Cherokee sign the Treaty of Echota, which took the last 8 million acres of their land for $5 million. This meant that the Cherokee were then forced to walk 800 miles west in search of new land. This event was known as the Trail of Tears. Many died during the winter on their way. More than a quarter of the Cherokee died.